Scott Duncan here with Gavin Densmore, CEO of At Home Eldercare, and we're talking to the folks from who are near our Wake County and Winston-Salem offices, our franchises, and we're going to be answering your questions today. You're welcome to submit them by chat, or you can email us through the website, but the best way is just if you're watching us on Facebook Live, just submit them through the chat function, and we'll be happy to take your questions live. Gavin, thanks for stopping by. This is our second live event.
This is fun.
It is fun.
I'm enjoying this.
Well, you know, we worked the kinks out the last time, and you know, people were commenting on the fact that we were showing people some cables and stuff as we got started with like a rough start, but you know, we've worked out the kinks. But you know, the most important thing we're doing here today is talking to people, because obviously people still need care for their senior loved ones.
Still need home care, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's been a giant virus-shaped monkey wrench thrown into everybody's plans over the last
Year and a half.
over a year
and a quarter.
Yeah, at least. And so we want to sort of help people figure out how to navigate those waters today and answer any questions they might have. But first and foremost, let's talk about, I want to give you the floor and talk about what we've done, what At Home Eldercare has done in response to the pandemic, which fortunately seems to be getting a handle on, but still part of our lives.
Getting on top. I think it's going to be part of our lives, Scott, for probably the next 8 months.
Yeah.
I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not an expert at that, but it seems like the country is getting on top of it. First and foremost, running a senior care agency, the better ones out there, I would be flattered to include ourselves in that, always start with great policies and procedures. And we have policies and procedures specifically for infection control, bloodborne pathogens, things like that.
Right.
All of our employees are versed in them. Our nurse teaches them to the employees, and at the end of the day, the feds got it right. Good hand washing technique, masking up, PPE, personal protective equipment, is everything that we need to get on top of this. So we've been doing that from day one. We've done that for the past 21 years, Scott. Gloving up. I think we are certainly, even in home care, we have seen a shift, and I'm wondering if it's going to become permanent, of masking up.
Right.
Where, you know, prior to the COVID, nobody in home care was wearing masks. Nobody in public was wearing masks, for heaven's sakes. Now, it's almost subconscious. You go into a store, you go into a location, you mask up.
Right.
Whether you got the shots or not. I've had both my shots for the past month now.
Right.
And yet, every time I go out, I'm putting a mask on. So I think there are probably going to be some long-term changes and effects coming out of COVID. In home care, we're going to continue to do what we always have. We're going to glove up. We're going to be washing our hands consistently and frequently.
Right.
And it'll be up to the clients and the employees whether they mask up when they're in. But I'll say this, there's been virtually no flu season this year over the past year because everybody has been masked up, which is great.
Right.
So, I mean, the flu alone kills 100,000 people a year, and we've seen virtually no flu cases just because everybody's been masked up. So I think there's some obvious great benefit to wearing a mask.
Sure.
Especially when you're in front of clients that are seniors. But now we're hoping that the seniors were the first couple of waves of getting the shots, I know my parents are in their 80s, and they both had both their shots. So, but I think that there's going to be some long-term effect coming out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the subject of the talk today is finding senior home care during and after COVID. And so if someone is looking for senior care, now last time we talked about some general questions that people should ask and things they should look for. What is the first question they should ask if their primary concern is the pandemic?
What policies and procedures do you have in place to handle COVID and infectious disease?
Right.
Bang! I can quote our chapter and verse. Of course, I've taught for the state of North Carolina for the past 15 years, so I know the policies and procedures inside and out. But any family should say, "Hey, we're putting the care of mom or dad into your hands. What precautions are you taking?" The employees are pre-testing before they go into work. We have a question sheet that they complete. Check mark, check mark, check mark. They're obviously gloving up and they're masking up. If they're running a temp, they call out and we find a replacement.
Right.
These are all things that any home care agency should have right off the cuff and be able to just rattle it off in their sleep.
Sure. It shouldn't be, there shouldn't be any hesitation. We're doing X, Y, and Z, and we're basing on this state's guidelines and have those questions, the answers to those questions right off the bat.
Absolutely. And not so much a state-by-state basis. Good infection control policy is just good infection control policy.
Universal.
It's universal.
Right.
Yeah. I think so to answer your question, a family member is looking for care for their mom or dad, what's the first question? The first question is, tell me what precautions you're taking.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, is it public? Can someone come in and say how many instances or issues have you had in the past, or is that something that you're not allowed to talk about?
No, we're allowed to talk about it in generalities. We're not going to do the HIPAA. We're not going to specifically name names.
Sure. But that's a question somebody might ask.
Yeah, it's a question somebody might ask. Knock on wood, we've had 0 cases. So
Sure.
I think we're blessed. But in our situation, Scott, our caregivers are providing one-on-one care, and typically they have dedicated clients that they take care of, and that's it.
Sure.
So we're not sending them from location to location where they literally could be spreaders.
Right.
And that's where the whole problem came into effect for the nursing homes and the assisted living facilities and the skilled facilities, is the fact that the caregivers and the aides and the employees were going from resident to resident to resident to resident, and it took off like a wildfire.
Yeah.
Home care, we're not faced with that because we're not working in the close proximity like a facility is.
And in many cases, and Melinda, thank you for your comment. She gave a thumbs up and said absolutely in agreement with what you were saying earlier. The reality is that a CNA or an aide in a nursing facility of whatever level, assisted living, SNFs, what have you, is dealing with multiple patients. They're going from room to room.
They are.
Sometimes as many as how many?
15 to 20.
Yeah.
And it's...
Now, North Carolina
I don't know if I would call it a super spreader event because there's a higher likelihood that when you've got that many people in that close proximity, the odds go up dramatically.
Right, because it's not just the people they're directly interacting with. Then they go and they hang out with the other CNA, or they have a conversation with the director of nursing who's talked to the other CNA. So you cannot completely compartmentalize and isolate like you can with a home care situation. Now, fortunately, North Carolina did a fairly good job in keeping this from being a terrible event in the nursing facilities. They set some guidelines early, right?
Yeah.
But some states out there,
some states, New York,
horror stories, and Washington State, and where it all took off, where it first landed, and
I think that the DHHS here in North Carolina did a remarkable job staying on top of it. We still had deaths occur in facilities here, but not to the staggering number in other states.
New York, New Jersey, places like that.
Yes, so kudos to the DHHS and the DHSR for what they've done and the way that they handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the reality, though. We named this presentation, senior care during and after COVID. And the reality is, after COVID, there is still going to be a large number of people out there who are going to be hesitant because you don't know when the next one's coming along.
Or what variant is going to come along.
Yeah.
The UK strain. There are various strains that, it's morphing.
Yeah.
And so I think I heard today from a Duke, one of the Duke team members on COVID that folks 50 and over are going to get boosters every year.
Yeah.
For COVID.
Well, the good news is, and this is what preliminary science seems to show, that while the vaccines may not protect you 100% from the variants, it at least does that reduce the severity.
Reduces the severity of
thing. So, yeah, it ends up being just sort of a bad flu. And, the other reality is that one of the primary determinants as to whether or not this virus, took your life was comorbidities. Your obesity was the number one, and then of course age, and respiratory, COPD, things like that, what folks used to call emphysema.
Exactly. So the comorbidity had obviously played into it.
Right. And having a senior home care person in the person's home one-on-one can help manage those conditions better as well.
Absolutely. Your family member's never going to get a higher level of care, period, bar none. I'm obviously biased because I'm a home care agency.
Sure.
But a one-on-one scenario is far better than a 1 in 20 scenario. You're getting 100% of an individual's time versus 5% of their time.
Right.
And so when it comes to keeping the home clean, keeping our clients clean, living in a protected environment, absolutely. I think hands down, home care wins. There are a ton of facilities out there, Scott, and what they do with them, and I know probably as many people in the skilled side of care through the North Carolina Association of McCalla Living Association.
Right.
We were the home care provider of choice for Woodland Terrace for about 4 years. I know a lot of these facility directors. They're great people.
Yeah.
They're very dedicated people. They're very professional people.
Yeah. Now understand, folks, we're not knocking the senior care industry, the facilities. It's just the reality of this disease is that it spreads from person to person pretty virulently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How they're going to overcome that, I have no clue.
Yeah.
I think if I were putting my folks if my folks were in a situation where they needed senior care, I'd be pretty hesitant. Well, first, they would not go into a facility.
Right.
They're not facility kind of folks. Then you compound the fact that I love my parents and I don't really want to off them any sooner than God wants to take them.
I like
I got grandbabies. They want to spend quality time there. I think the facility industry, the assisted livings, the nursing homes, retirement communities are all going to be up to land and win for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years until the public starts to kind of
regains confidence.
Or that's a nice way of putting it, or forget about it.
Yeah. Before the next crisis lurches along. All right, so the first question, what are your policies and procedures when it comes to infection control? Obviously, that all meshes in with other quality of care. And so let's reiterate what the next question was.
I would say, tell me about your case management and how your team is going to manage mom and dad's care.
Right. Who's involved? What are your procedures?
My vice president of nursing, Connie Wilson, has got over 40 years of senior care experience. She knows senior care inside and out, and more importantly, she knows case management. We're in contact with our clients literally on a weekly basis.
Right.
Now, state law says you've got to contact them every 90 days. And shame on you if you're a home care agency, if you're pushing that 90-day boundary to stay in touch with your clients.
Yeah.
It's
about communication.
It is. It's absolutely about communication. And I've done in-home senior care for 21 years, Scott, and the best, most rewarding aspect of this job, bar none, is getting to know our clients and getting to know their stories. I love getting to know our clients. Now, as the agency owner and agency director, I leave the nursing aspect up to Connie Wilson because that's her job.
Yeah.
But good case management comes into play with, first and foremost, our caregiver in the field that is taking care of mom or dad, and having a great line of communication with them into our vice president of nursing and into myself, so that at the first warning sign that something may be off, she's reporting it back to us, and we're getting on top of it.
Right.
So I would say the second thing is great case management and just managing the relationship with the client the way that it should be.
Yeah.
And it's not only our client, but it's also the client's family that needs to stay in the loop.
I'd like to remind everybody that if you're watching us live, and we have a number of people on the live stream, and a couple of folks have already commented. Thank you, Melinda. And if you have questions directly, we're live. We'd be happy to answer them live. Please put them in the comment section on the event, and we'll respond to them while we're here. Now, you and I spoke on video a couple of weeks ago about a recent news story that is a positive development for folks who are going to need senior home care, and that's that the Biden administration, as part of their infrastructure plan, is committing $400 billion, with a B, folks, to subsidize or pay for
home care,
especially for seniors.
Yeah. Yes. I am waiting on a daily basis, and I'm looking at all the news sources to find out how that exactly is going to roll out and play out.
Right. Probably through CMS.
It's proposed. It's got to make it through the House and the Senate. The Republicans don't necessarily like it.
And the bill at large too.
Yeah. So it's got to make it through, but just the mere fact that Joe Biden has recognized that there is such an overwhelming need for help for seniors is a great starting point.
Yeah. And
I was reading an article on NPR, National Public Radio, and it was kind of critiquing and reviewing the $400 billion, and the person they were interviewing literally said it's a starting point, because by 2030, Scott, 1 out of 5 individuals in this country is going to be 65 years or older.
Yeah.
1 out of 20% of the whole population is going to be 65 or over by 2030.
We are aging.
That's 9 years away.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that the feds have finally woken up to, oh my God, we're going to be covered up in seniors. What do we do with them?
Yeah. And it would be literally impossible to build the facilities to handle them.
They've been, yes. And home care is, at the end of the day, they can build facilities as quickly as they want to. We're still going to be covered up with seniors, but at the end of the day, the seniors really want to stay at home. They would prefer to age in place. They recognize that. So the trick is going to be, how do they roll out that $400 billion? And right now, it seems from what I'm reading, it's going to be Medicaid, which is all well and good, but we have the individuals that are currently on Medicaid, and you have to qualify for Medicaid.
Yes, yeah.
It's income based, and they look at your savings and your property and everything else, and you have to qualify for Medicaid. And then folks that aren't on Medicaid are kind of in the lower middle income, upper middle income, and then you got the
Bill Gates.
You got the Bill Gates.
Even though he's going to have to split his fortune in half coming up pretty quick here.
Yeah, and Melinda's going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And you got the Elon Musk of the world that don't have a worry about how much money that home care takes.
Yeah.
It's actually that chunk in the middle. The middle income folks that make more money to qualify for Medicaid but can't afford any level of senior care, whether it's through a facility or whether it's through home care. So it's these folks in the middle that are really seriously put in a pinch to make sure mom or dad are taken care of, or they themselves are taken care of.
And in the long run, this is going to save money, because those people in that gap, what happens to them is they don't get taken care of, and the family caregivers come in and wear themselves out and finally have to give up or don't give them the care, get sick themselves. Exactly. There's caregiver burnout. It's a very well documented thing.
Yeah.
And so what happens is these people get sicker and sicker. They end up in a hospital being paid for by Medicare. They get
100 days on Medicare, and then they go home again.
Yeah, and then if they're readmitted, the hospital has to eat that bill. So then the hospitals suffer.
I will say this, Scott. I'm just really happy there are people on a much higher pay grade than myself that have to solve this problem. Because I don't think that there is, boy, you want to talk about a Pandora's box of opening it up and not getting Pandora back into it. I'm not sure. All we do know is the facts that people are living longer.
Yes.
Due to medical advances. The whole boomer generation is getting set to retire and hit retirement. The fact that Joe Biden or somebody in Washington woke up to the idea of how do we start to address this issue is a great starting point.
Well, absolutely, and we have to think about the fact that people have an idea in their head that when it's senior home care, it's 24/7, and there's somebody standing right beside mom and dad and it isn't always that. Even just putting somebody in 5 to 10 hours a week.
The average client for home care in America is 30 hours a week. If you're female, you outlive us guys by about a year.
Right.
So, I believe, I'm going off from memory, average female client for a home care agency is 3.5 years. Average for a male is 2.5. So if you average those two together, it's 30 hours a week for about 3 years that you're going to need in home care.
But if it starts earlier, because a lot of these people they've only brought in home care because mom and dad just absolutely can't take care of themselves. So, perhaps we'll see that 30-hour thing, that average go down, because you get people in there earlier when people are healthier to watch them, or where do you see that trend going? Or
I actually have seen over the past 21 years the trend go up.
Okay.
The trend is increasing, it's not decreasing.
Right.
And because, I would say 9 years ago, I want to say, our average client was 22 hours a week. Well, now the average is 30 hours a week. So from 9 years ago, it's actually increased about, 8 hours a week. So, and as people continue to get older, which we are doing, we just discussed that, there are...
That 9-year figure, you and I are going to be right around that number, that 65 number in 9 years too. So
that's, 57, 8 years for me. But as we continue to get older, our needs actually increase, they don't decrease.
Right.
So as the seniors, if you go from 82 and you're kind of really independent at 82, you're doing great.
Right.
But you live to 90. I can guarantee you can't do a lot of the things that you could at 82. At 90, we're done. Hopefully your family doesn't necessarily want you driving.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, but there's probably not a whole lot of 90-year-olds calling in on our call today.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily want them driving, but they've still got doctor's appointments and they still have to go grocery shopping. And so the hours actually are going to increase. They're not going to decrease.
We have a question. Someone who's viewing the broadcast, wants us to reach out to our legislative people to try to get that bill pushed through, which is a noble idea. But they would like to know what the average pay a CNA gets right now.
Average in the country is $12 an hour. I'm perfectly happy paying our employees $15 an hour.
Okay.
I think it's a living wage. It seems to be in the news that everybody's determined $15 is a living wage. And I've run a home care agency for 21 years, Scott.
Yeah.
The secret is take care of your employees first. Do everything you humanly possibly can for them. Because happy employees make for happy clients.
Yes.
And happy clients, that's what we're in this for. Is we want happy, safe clients. And it all starts with loving on your employees as much as you possibly can. And if I have to give up $3 an hour to get my employees up to a livable wage, I'm happy to take the $3 an hour hit.
So if there are any of you out there right now who are CNAs, give us a call because we're hiring.
Actually,
sure.
Better yet, I'm covered up with phone calls. It's busy, folks. I would email me at Gavin, Gavin, @ATHOME.
I'm going to put that in the comments.
EC.com, or no, EC, yeah.
At homeec.com.
.com, I got that right. Yep.
All right, I just put that in the comments, folks, if you want to.
If you're a CNA and you're interested in providing great quality care for our clients, absolutely reach out to me via email, and I'd love to have you in the office. And we can start that process of onboarding you.
Now, this is a question is obviously based on what market you're in and so forth, but as far as the two offices we're addressing today, Wake County and Winston-Salem, and hi, Kimberly, if you're watching us. By the way, Kimberly, our franchisee out in Winston-Salem, is also sort of part of this whole broadcast today. Now, in some future broadcasts, we're going to bring her in as a co-host, and I'm looking forward to that because you folks are going to love them. She's had let me tell you a little bit about, Kimberly has 2 master's degree in healthcare management, became a franchisee for At-Home Eldercare and has just been killing it and just provides outstanding care to her clients, and people love working for her, and I love working with her as my role in marketing. So if you've got needs out in Winston-Salem, the contact information, you can find all of that on Facebook, and we'll post that on the best place to go is athomeec.com/locations, and I'll put that link in and that shows you everywhere that we are. And also, I might mention, and next week coming up, tell your friends if you've got anybody who is looking for an opportunity, a business opportunity. Next Thursday at 9:30, and this is on our other page for the franchise news page, because we are also a franchisor rather. We set people up in businesses, home care, under the At-Home Eldercare. And it's your own business. And if you know someone who might be interested in that, we're going to be doing a live seminar next Thursday morning at 9:30. And it'll be over on our franchise news page, and we'll promote that as well. Answering your questions about an opportunity in the home care industry. But that again is also on our website, at Home EC. You'll see a franchise page, and we'll post all those links right here. Now, the other question that this person had was, what is the rate that clients pay, that customers pay?
We charge $28 an hour.
Okay.
In Raleigh, and I think that we're going to, and the reason I'm comfortable saying that we are going to pay $15 an hour here in Wake County is that WakeMed, the local hospitals, WakeMed, Rex, and Duke have all agreed that their CNAs are going to start at $15 an hour.
It is, and that's been something
So
that's been around for a while.
Yeah, it's been around for about the past year and a half or 2 years. And so I think we're just going to see that naturally kind of migrate through any industry that has nurse aides.
And I can say
County.
that I've heard that straight from the horse's mouth. I was working with the unemployment office here in the state of North Carolina. I did a seminar with them on hiring CNAs, and it was me in the middle, and some really high muckety muck from Wake Med, and some really high muckety muck from UNC HR talking about their hiring practices. And it was, we're announcing today that we're $15 an hour minimum wage at all UNC hospitals, and everybody else is following suit.
Yeah, and so we charge $28 an hour for our services, and that's not the highest, it's not the lowest, but you definitely, in our industry, you get what you pay for, and I don't think there's a home care agency out there, well, there isn't, that's got 21 years of experience like I do.
Mm.
Or Connie, their vice president of nursing, my vice president of nursing, has got 40 years of senior care nursing experience. So,
and I've done the research. That number isn't too far out. That's what the market's charging.
Yeah, that's what the market is. That's what the market is charging, and I'll be very candid, Scott. We provide Cadillac service.
Yeah. Which I would attest to for sure.
I've always said I don't want to be the largest home care agency. I want to be the best.
Yeah.
And if that means that we carry a smaller caseload, but we focus more attention on our clients, and we do talk to them on a weekly basis, then I'm perfectly happy with that. Yeah. So thank you for your question. It's great questions. But to reiterate and to share again, you have to take care of your employees, because there's not a home care agency in this country that cannot do the job without a great caregiver. And so great caregivers and great hiring practices is the very first step. And we have not experienced the churn a lot of home care agencies do. We work very, very hard at attracting the best help, and then we work even harder at holding on to great aides and great caregivers.
Yeah, which is important, because you don't want to end up having to switch aides over and over again, and new people all the time in and out, and not learning your senior loved ones, the ins and outs of their case and them as people, and because a lot of it is developing a personal relationship too.
It is. Andy Warhol said everybody gets 15 minutes of fame, Scott. And fortunately, we don't get ours on Live and 5 on WRAL. We get ours in obituaries.
Well, I've done enough TV. It's not as exciting as it's.
We get our 15 minutes of fame in obituaries and eulogies.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. It's sad that your client has passed away, but to sit at the service and hear the minister or the preacher give the eulogy and say, boy, Deborah and Renee and Mary made such a difference in Mrs. Smith's life, for the last.
When the caregivers get a nod.
Yeah, when the caregivers get a nod, you've touched a life in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, moving forward, people are still going to be very hesitant to put their loved ones in a facility. Mm-hmm. What is it? I mean, do you see, because demand has been increasing, you've seen it.
Oh, demand is going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it now is the time to start thinking about.
Now is the time to start if you've got an aging parent that is in their early 80s, and you're seeing them slow down, and you're seeing cognitive function slow down, then now is the time to be thinking about it and reaching out to individuals and having discussions about what are my options out here, and how can we best approach this.
Don't wait until it's a crisis.
I always said that senior care is like a Chinese fire drill. You get out of the car, you run around in circles at the stop sign, you get back in the car. And in senior care, still to this day, there really isn't name brand recognition I can sit here and say that At-Home Eldercare is the internationally recognized senior care agency of choice. That's not true.
Yeah.
What is true is that when families visit mom or dad and they see a cognitive or physical decline, they go, oh my God, what do we do?
Yeah.
And it's not like if I were to ask you, Scott, you're driving down the highway and you want to get a burger for lunch. Well, I got Arby's and I got McDonald's and I got Burger King and I got Chick-fil-A. They just immediately snap into your mind. You realize that mom has got dementia and maybe she doesn't need to be alone all the time now.
Yeah.
You don't slap your head and say, I'm going to call At-Home Eldercare, or I'm going to call Helping Hands of America, or Home Instead Senior Care, or HomeWorks. They don't know where to turn to.
Yeah.
And so they go to their doctors, and the doctors can tell them about it. There are geriatric care managers that can work with them. They can certainly, you can call us folks. We are happy to have a conversation with you regarding what options and what choices are available to you, not only here in White County, but if you're dialing in from anywhere else around the country, pick up the phone. Scott will have our information at the end of the live broadcast, and we'll be happy to take your calls and get you going in the right direction.
Well, and I've already posted, if you look in the comment section attached to the live video, there is a link to our locations page. And then from that page, there is a link to each of our locations. So especially the one in Raleigh and the one in Winston-Salem, and then their phone numbers and email address and the primary contact is right there on that page. So all you do is click a link and it'll take you right there. One of the nice things about, hey, by the way, we're talking to you on the internet. We can also...
It's a live stream.
It is. Once again, we are also taking your questions live, and folks have been in and out watching the broadcast. And we've got about 15, 20 minutes left. So to wrap things up, let's set COVID aside for a second. Mm-hmm. And I want to go back to some of the questions we addressed on the last one. We've got our second question about, I want to get into the second question. First one is, what do you do about COVID?
Yeah, second question.
Infection control.
Case management.
Second question, case management. Where do we go next? What's the, is it...
Once a family decides on which senior care option they want to go down.
Yeah.
There's very briefly, there's home care through At-Home Eldercare or any one of the competitors that we have in town in the state. There are assisted living facilities. Well, first there's retirement communities.
Yes.
And part of
senior living.
There are senior living. And it used to be a great option. Knock on wood, it'll come back to being a great option up until COVID hit.
Yeah.
You can move mom and dad in with you. You can hire your own caregiver, which is what we call private duty in this business. There are definite pitfalls to that.
Hiring an employee.
It's an option, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Now, if you already have a business and you can handle the employee and payroll and taxes, because you have to do that for somebody.
And the criminal background check.
And all of that stuff.
The criminal background check and the liability insurance and the bonding and the theft coverage and everything else that goes along with it.
Do you know how to insist that someone gets a TB test? Which I just had to go through that. By the way, folks, I don't have TB. It is a little white bubble.
Hepatitis B, Hep B immunization or declination. Yeah, so there's a whole, we screen.
Yeah.
We screen our employees, and just hiring somebody off the streets, folks, it is an option, but it's one they can jump up and bite you. So I would think really twice about that. I would say the next step would be once you decide which venue you want to go down, or maybe you've got it down to, well, we know that senior care is a definite option for mom, and maybe we're thinking about facilities. That's fine. Then let's sit down, have a conversation. What you need to do is compare the cost. And while cost isn't so important, ask mom where she's going to be happiest at.
Yeah.
I was reading today's Wall Street Journal on gifting and inheritance to your kids, and how do you give away your wealth to your children. And it all, basically the whole conversation, it all starts with a great conversation with your children. And I think the same is true for senior care for our family members. It starts with a conversation. It's not an easy conversation to have, but it's a conversation you have to have and find out what mom or dad really want, since it's going to be their money that is being spent
No,
on them.
and unfortunately, I think, we as people who are dealing with older parents, and we don't want to talk about these folks like we're trying to talk about putting your dog in the kennel. These are people who have their own wants and desires and preferences.
Absolutely.
And so forth. Unless they are completely, don't know who you are, don't know who they are in the throes of dementia, they have some say in this too.
Yeah, absolutely they do. What is going to make mom or dad happiest?
Yeah.
And you start there, and then you can do a cost comparison. It should certainly be part of any decision that you make. But at the end of the day, we stack up pretty darn well against a facility, so I'm pretty comfortable with that we're not going to get blown out on a dollar for dollar basis. And my consideration is, if mom goes into assisted living facility, quote unquote, it's assisted living. So mom's only going to get 5% of that nurse aide's time versus 100% of her time if she stays at home. But at the end of the day, call us. We're happy to discuss senior care. This is what we've done for the past, I personally have done it for the past 21 years. Again, my vice president of nursing, Connie Wilson, has done it for over 40. Let's have a conversation about mom or dad's care.
So maybe we need to take a step back. So we've talked about when people are looking for care for themselves or their loved ones, and they start picking up the phone and making calls about what their options are. Mm-hmm. You're saying years before that, there needs to be a conversation. Like, if your parents are in their late 60s, early 70s and still vital and traveling the world, it's not just a conversation about funeral arrangements. It's another conversation about, well, what happens if you and mom get sick, or one of you passes and the other one can't take care? You set those ground rules that do that homework ahead of time, and you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache.
Absolutely. And as I said, it's not an easy conversation to have, but it's one that you have to have.
Yeah.
Either proactive in life or reactive. And if you're proactive and you get your ducks in a row before anything happens, then you've got it planned out.
Yeah.
In my family, I was always raised to plan your work and work your plan. So I think the same is true when it comes to senior care. So I got a kid going off to college this year.
Okay.
And he's not leaving until August, and it's the 1st of May, and so I'm having conversations. How are you going to get there? You've got to move a whole bunch of stuff up. I'm going to hop on an airplane. Oh, really? Well, that's interesting. So you're going to get your bed in the hold of the airplane, and they're going to fly your bed up there. I need my kid thinking,
where you haul and
well, I've got a big truck, so we can put everything in the big truck. We can drive it up. We've got family in New York, so Connor's up there. Pierce's mom would probably like to go up and get a twofer, move her son into his college dorm, and see our son Connor at the same time.
Sure.
So there are, just kind of thinking ahead and planning ahead is a terrific starting point.
I got a daughter who is a couple of years away from high school, and we're already talking about the track, what she's going to do when she does she want to stay in band? Does she want to do more theater? Does
Yeah.
There's creative choices.
You're just planning, and we're talking about teenagers now, but which is totally, I'd rather talk about seniors, but
it's the same thing, family.
Teenagers, you just plant seeds. You plant seeds, and they're going to germinate. You hope they germinate quickly and start to grow, but, I think you need to take mom and dad's wishes into account. As I said, it's their money. I've never once in 21 years seen the kids pay for mom or dad's care. It is always coming out of mom or dad's savings where they're paying for this. So the kids aren't going to be paying for it. Mom and dad are. So find out what mom and dad want.
Right.
And then call us and have a conversation. We can be as flexible as you need us to on the hours. the Wall Street Journal 2 years ago, June of 19, published that it's 30 hours a week is the average across the country.
Yeah.
So budget and plan for 30 hours a week of care for your family members.
Right. Well,
that's a great starting point.
And the unfortunate truth is not everybody has a wonderful relationship with their parents. And so starting this conversation when it's not a crisis is going to allow you to get over any other emotional turmoil and nonsense that may accompany the conversation. Before you have, all right, Mom, Dad, you need help right now.
It comes down to communication. So coming back to this, to your point, communication.
Yeah.
Gifting the inheritance to your kids or giving them money. So the article in today's Wall Street Journal was, this gentleman at Christmas time, financial situations changed. For 3 or 4 years running, he had given his son and daughter-in-law a pretty significant chunk of change at Christmas. Well, guess what? The kids grew accustomed to that, and when Dad kind of ran into a little financial tightening of the belts himself, he didn't do it on Christmas, which caused a lot of angst for the children because they had come to expect it every year.
Right.
What do we say when we assume?
Yeah.
The kids were assuming, and they made so they were not pleasant until Dad sat down and had a conversation and said, "Hey, listen, I'm sorry for the hurt feelings that you came to expect this, but I kind of, the market tightened up, and I didn't have the capability to give you that money." And feelings were soothed, and they got back on plane. But just great open communication with your family, Scott, and planting seeds.
And that's the reality of being in any kind of business where you're literally at home with these folks. You're in their house, you're in their family, you're in the middle of their family dynamic. And so, that's going to be part of the skill set to running a home care agency.
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, we've been thrown in the situation of all those counselors. It's not my profession, folks. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
But trying to manage expectations between the kids and Mom and Dad, or your client that you were caring for, and the children. It's part of what owning and operating a home care agency is about. It's a little part, but it's still a part.
Yeah. All right. So basically, we did get a little bit of a late start, but we're coming up to our end time, and so I just want to, as I said in the comments attached to this live event, we put the link and also Gavin's email. But I'll say it out loud in case you're just listening or watching the video. It is at home HOMEEC.com. At homeec.com is the website. The locations page has where our franchisees, and that's expanding every day.
And do me a favor, Scott, share my cell phone with everyone, and you can put it in the comment section. Folks,
Sure.
My cell phone is 919-632-8891. That's 919-632-8891. Give me a call. I'll be very candid with you. Texting for me is a lot faster response time.
There it is. It's in the.
It's out on Facebook now. 919-632-8891. Shoot me a text. Give me a call. I'm happy to talk with you. It sounds like one of our question folks out there was a nurse aide. We're always looking for our next great caregiver. We're very selective, much like setting people up in a franchise. And Kimberly is an absolute awesome franchise partner. We just don't take anybody off the street as caregivers either. We're incredibly selective. When we have 10 people sit down around our conference room table, Scott, we may extend an offer to 2 of them. We're looking for the best of the best. And 21 years later, I'm totally comfortable with that.
Let me tell a little bit of a story about franchise that I think, and I posted this on. So I just read a story about, the running joke is that the ice cream machines are always broken at McDonald's.
So yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so these folks, I don't remember their names exactly, but I posted it on our franchise news page. This independent company developed this little computer that you could attach to the McDonald's ice cream machine, and it would get into the secret menus and tell you what was really wrong with it, so they could service it themselves at the McDonald's, the franchisees.
Great.
McDonald's had one of their biggest franchisees commit intellectual property theft and buy one of these little computers, the system, and then reverse engineer it, and McDonald's is now selling their own version and have squeezed these people out after having a good relationship with. Yeah.
Ooh, this is not good. This is not good business partnership management. This is bad.
The difference, and this is something you folks just did because you just went with a new provider because when a caregiver goes to a client's home, they check in on their phone, and it's GPS and
it's our technology system. It's a lot like Match.com. It's what Match.com has done for online dating. Our technology does in setting up our caregivers with our clients.
Right, but there's also the thing called SwiftOps, and you switched from one provider to another, and the process didn't even involve you. This wasn't a unilateral decision. There is a committee of technology. There's a technology committee in this company that sits down.
Franchisees.
Yep, and the franchisees have input and expert testimony, as it were, and that's how they decide to pick something like the software that the caregivers use when they're interacting with their clients.
Our franchisees selected the technology platform. I didn't.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I want our franchisees to do things.
And they, looked at it and said, this works or this doesn't work and this is what we need.
Oh, we had a whole process of elimination of software vendors that we looked at, and we narrowed it down, and the franchise partner selected SwiftOps, and it's going to be our platform for at least the next 5 years.
And folks, that's one of the things that makes us different.
It is.
Absolutely.
It may sound cliche-ish, but we truly are looking for a partnership with our franchisees.
Yeah.
It's not a parent-child relationship. It's not dictatorial.
But that's also employees or any of it. This is...
Oh, any of it. Yeah. I mean, caregivers. I had a gal stop by the office this morning at 9:00. Found us online as a caregiver. Has got great experience. I've got an email her after our meeting today. She's excited. I love her background. I love the fact that she found the office. She was excited about coming out. And just having your employees' best interest at heart is a great starting point. Because not all home care agencies do, folks. And it's sad, but 21 years later, one of my takeaway learns that I've come to the conclusion of is that you can't do this business without great employees, and anything you can do to hold on to employees, then you need to do that.
Yeah, if you want the cream of the crop, you have to treat them like they're the cream of the crop.
You have to love them as much as you possibly can.
Yeah,
and we share the love.
Very good. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap things up, folks. Thanks for joining us. Now, we're going to post this video if you'd like to watch it again, and we're also probably going to have it out on our YouTube channel and our website, so there'll be plenty of opportunities for you to see the answers to our questions. And once again, we'll be doing this next month, and we'll have that posted up on Facebook. We'll be answering your caregiver questions next Thursday morning at 9:30 on Facebook Live on our franchise page, which you can find through this page. You'll see that we have a seminar coming up about what I think is a very exciting business opportunity. You can become part of our family and take advantage of what promises to be, what continues to be a growing market.
And yes to all of the above, Scott.
There you go. Very good, Gavin. Thank you again, and we're going to wrap things up. And I'm going to get up, and you're going to see me disappear and shut this down. And thank you, folks, for joining us.
Thanks. Thank you ever so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure, and we look forward to your questions on the upcoming